Welcome to the Connectable Podcast.
The Connectable Podcast starts in 3, 2, 1.
And there we go.
That's how we start this bad boy. So today we have a guest that is not only a pro bodybuilder, but he's also a DJ. And just based on appearance, he could also be the bouncer at the club that he's also DJing at, because he is a very big man. We've got Chad Larsen. What's going on, man?
Good. How are you?
We're good. I'm excited to talk to you, man. We've been following you for a little while, and you're obviously a really interesting guy because of all the different things that you are involved with. And not just, I'm just going to say this, not just involved with, but like you seem to really throw yourself like head first into all the stuff that you're involved with too. So you don't seem like a guy that does stuff halfway. So I'm really excited to talk more to you about it. But before we get started with your whole story, I do like to start off the podcast with letting everybody know how we're connected, because it's called Connectable. Our whole goal is to connect with people through relatable conversation. And how we're connected, we were just kind of joking about it. It's kind of funny because we have a mutual friend in Jason Harper. And when I was working for Harper, we kind of bumped into each other every once in a while, whether it be Evening of Dreams, Character Combine. Like I saw you around. I think you donated some items to the organization that I picked up at your house. All these weird things. And then I think one of the last times I saw you was at the Grant Napier golf tournament that we worked at. I saw you and your wife there, which is funny because I don't know where that lands on your timeline of bodybuilding, but I'll say this: you looked much different the next time I saw you. And like, whoa, is that Chad Larsen? Oh yeah, it is. And then the funny thing is, the last time we saw each other was at the dentist. That we just realized that we went to the same dentist for around 20 years together. Had no clue. So that's just the quick snapshot of how we're connected. But anyways, man, that's enough of me talking. Like, let's just jump into it, Deb. Is that cool?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Dude, how did you tell us a little bit about yourself, and then let's start with the bodybuilding. Like, how did you get into the bodybuilding world?
So, quite honestly, I've told this story a lot. I was actually, as a child, I was a very chubby little kid, and I got made fun of, got picked on a lot. And as I got older, I just kind of made it my mission. I was determined not to be that guy, not to be that kid. And so I made a lot of mistakes, a lot of errors. I read a lot. I did what most people do. I read something, tried it. A week later, didn't get results, tried something else, and I just kind of bounced around. I never really stuck to anything. In high school, I had a friend who got into bodybuilding. So I kind of followed him and watched his journey and how he did things. And I stayed really close to fitness and how I ate and all those kind of things. But I had a period in my time, and I think I met you, I think that the golf tournament was around this time where I'd gotten married. And I still worked out, but I was just kind of doing life. I was kind of living, regular daytime job, had kids, doing family stuff. And I had some friends that still competed and were very into fitness. And I just one day, I don't know, I can't really pin it, but I woke up one day and my wife competed. She does bikini, and she's been doing it for quite a while. And I said, it was our 10-year wedding anniversary. And I said, I'll tell you what, I've been working out my whole life. I'm going to diet with you, and I'm going to compete with you for our 10-year anniversary. So I went to a friend of mine who had been competing for years and was a coach here in Roseville. And his name was Jason Salinas. We've been friends forever. And I said, hey man, I want to compete. So we got together, and I started learning diet. I started really paying attention to the things that I was doing in routine. And I made a commitment to him as a friend that I was going to stick to everything. And you kind of alluded to this before, when I decide, put in my mind that I want to do something, I'm super determined. I don't let anything get in my way. People think I'm crazy. I've had a chance to meet, and I think you have too, David
Goggins.
David Goggins.
Yeah.
Very similar personalities. He and I spoke for quite a while with my wife and my daughter, just about we talked about bodybuilding. We talked about a couple different things and just life and like goals and different things. And I realized like we're wired very similarly. So when I decided to do that, I put my head down and I just did it. And I went to that show. It was more or less, I was to support my wife. I mean, I watched what she did and she worked so hard. She did so well. She was always winning. And I thought she deserves to look at me like I see her. So I did that and I won and I was shocked. So when I won that show, it qualified me for a national show. And if you talk to most people, they'll tell you, you should win an overall or you should win a bunch of shows before you go to a national show, because when you go to a national show, if you win a national show, you go pro. And so I got that, I understood that, but my wife had won and she had won several shows. She was an overall winner. She won an entire show. And so she did exactly what they said you should do. So she was qualified for nationals the next year. But because I won, technically I was qualified too. And I thought, well, she's going to go there and she's going to diet and she's going to do all these things. I'm going to do it too. And I don't really care what they say you should do. I'm going to kind of do my own thing. And so I went and I competed, and I'm still relatively new to it. So I don't have any of the nerves or any of that kind of stuff because I just don't know what to expect. I just don't know what I don't know.
Sure.
And I took 5th. So I was surprised. I was like, oh, okay, I took 5th. So I placed top 5. It's a big deal. So I decided, like, after that was done, I gave it some time and I said, you know what, I'm going to give it one big solid run. So I sought out probably, I mean, hands down, the best coach, probably he's out there. His name's Ariel. It's a team, it's called Cuts. He's based out of the Bay Area. And I reached out to him through a mutual friend. And I said, this is what I want to do. I said, I've only competed twice. I won my first show. I took 5th at nationals. And he said, send me some pics. I want to see what you looked like last year. Send me some pics now. And I sent it all to him and he's like, we can beat that. And I said, okay, well, let's try it. So we developed a friendship. I love the man to death. I have so much respect for him, but this was a guy who, I mean, he's got like 200 competitors and he's so in tune with everything you do. I mean, I was shocked the entire process, but as I got closer to the show, we talked multiple times a day, and to the last 2 days, to where, without going into too much detail about how it works, it was like, send me a picture every hour. And I would send him a picture every hour and he would say, go eat this or go eat that, because he could tell by the way, look what I need to do. And about, I don't know, four weeks out from that show, I sent him a picture that did my posing routine, sent it to him. And he said, I think I'm looking at a new pro. And my initial thought was, he's such a nice guy. Like, that's so good of him to say that to me, to like make me feel good about myself when I go compete. Because I mean, honestly, that's what a good coach does, right? And then I talked to some friends, and they're like, no, man, he means it. Like, if he's saying that, he doesn't say that to people. If he says that, he means it. So I thought, okay, so let's just go with this. So then my mind kind of switched. I went from, this is just going to be fun, and I'm glad I look good for summer and go to the pool parties. And I like the discipline aspect of it. It switched. I went, okay, so maybe I do have a legit shot at this. So if he believes that and he thinks that, I put on about, which is a lot, 9 pounds of muscle, close to 10 in that year, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it's a lot. And completely changed my physique. I mean, I looked very much different. I would run into people and they're like, I can't believe, like you said yourself, I can't believe how much your physique has changed. A lot of that's diet. A lot of it's training. There's a lot that goes into it, but I started to kind of believe it myself. And I went to that show. I went out on stage. I looked at the guys in my lineup and I thought, I don't know how, like, at that level, everybody looks perfect. So you just don't know. I mean, it's very subjective. They're looking, I mean, it changes all the time what they're looking for, but they're looking for symmetry. They want broad shoulders. In my class that I do, they want broad shoulders, tiny waist, big back, big chest. And they're looking for that overall look. So I competed, I got done. He said, I think you did it. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, we'll see when I get out there. And then before I walked out on stage, I had another coach, the guy next to me, his coach walked up to me and shook my hand. He said, hey, congratulations. And I said, on what? And he said, you just got your pro card. And I said, what do you mean? We haven't even gone out there yet. Because I saw the scorecard, but I wanted you to know before you're out there, because I want you to enjoy it when you go out there. So I had competed in 2 classes. So I went out there, got my pro card. I walked off. I was so in shock that I completely forgot that I was going back out for another class. And I walked out and I went to find my wife, and I came and found her, and I expected her to be super excited. Instead, she's looking at me and she's like, what are you doing? And I said, what do you mean? I'm like, I can't believe this happened. She was like, aren't you competing again? And I was like, oh my God. I took off running and went back, and they had actually gone out on stage already and realized that they were missing someone, and came back off. And somehow I slipped back in, went back out there. And so anyways, it was just kind of a crazy little moment for me. I was a little bit in shock, but so then I came back and I was like, now what do I do? So now it's like, well, you're a pro, you got to compete as a pro. Because my goal, to be honest with you, was never to be pro. It was to be in shape and support my wife. And, we laugh now because, people compete for years and spend so much time and money and effort and coaches. And I competed 2 times, and my 3rd time I turned pro. So it sounds crazy to say, but and I don't like to say it too much because it sounds, it sounds like you're kind of bragging a little bit, but it is different. It's not normal. So.
No, I mean, I don't know much. Sorry, Deb. I don't know much about that world, but the one thing that you hear when I hear someone on a podcast or see a video of someone is, it's not a simple road. It's not like one day I can say, hey, I'm going to go do this. And then six months from now, I can go compete. Like, it is a long road. And I think that's where you probably separate a lot of people, right? The people that are serious about it versus the people that like the idea in the moment, is because you have to understand that 6 months down the road, when you maybe want to quit doing it because it's so tough, you're not even halfway there. Like, you got to just keep going. And then, hey man, I say we're a pro brag show. So brag about it, dude. Because that's impressive. I'll brag. We'll brag for you. How about that?
Exactly.
It is. I mean, it's a lot of, it's discipline. I mean, really what it comes down to and I coach, my wife and I have clients. We do more lifestyle stuff, but when it gets into competing, I'll tend to send that to somebody else, to my coach, or she'll send it to her coach.
Sure.
Because there's a lot to it, and we both have regular jobs. So, but lifestyle and people that are looking to lose weight and get in shape. I mean, we've had people that we've worked with that needed to lose X amount of weight so that they could have gastric bypass. And I mean, we've had some really good success with that. But it always comes down to discipline. I think a lot of people, they try something and they stick to it for 3 or 4 weeks, and they don't see the results they want to see, and life just gets to them. And it's also hard when you have a spouse who doesn't understand why you're doing it, or doesn't understand how serious it is, or whatever else. And when you don't have those things aligned, it's very difficult. So it's not for everyone. I think people look and say, I want to look like you, and I always tell them, like, no, you don't. Like, you think you do, but it's a very different mindset. I mean, I'll just give you an example. Sorry, my kids just got home.
It's all good. We're a pro dog show, so it's all good.
We'll let them out. There you go. Go ahead.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like, I'll give you an example. So I weigh every single gram of food that I eat every day. I have for 3 years. I can probably count on 2 hands how many times I have not. And those are vacations. I tend to go on vacation. We go to Mexico, we'll rent a home or a villa, and we'll bring a scale, and we'll go to the store and we'll buy all of our food, and I still weigh it. I don't, that's just my life. Like, that's what I'm used to doing.
Sure.
My wife, the same thing. My kids, not so much. But they understand it. My oldest is she just went to college. She's a kinesiology major.
Awesome.
And she is, she's slowly, like, we've never forced anything on her. I've just tried to be a good example, and I'll tell her certain things, but it's kind of like now she's starting to go down that road herself, just because I think she's been around it, but it was her decision. Like, she's seen it, she knows what it takes. And so she's starting to gain interest in it. And so I kind of see her like take it off that way. My little one, she still eats Doritos in front of me and ice cream, but well, I'm so used to it now. I don't like if people laugh, like they're like, doesn't it bother you when people eat that in front of you? And I'm like, I don't even think about it. Like, it doesn't. Actually, I will tell you, if you eat that good, when you eat bad, your body will tell you that it doesn't like it, because it gets so used to eating so clean and such good food that when you eat Doritos or ice cream or something like that, your body screams. It doesn't like it. Right. And the other thing I think that people get confused with is, especially for my wife, when she competes, she gets super lean. I mean, I do too. But as a woman, she gets pretty thin when she competes, and people are, oh my God, you eat. And the truth is, she probably eats more than them. I mean, we both eat 6-7 times a day. So we eat smaller meals, but we eat a lot. We're constantly eating. We constantly have food in our mouth. So, which is a whole nother subject.
Yeah. That's really cool that you two do it together. I imagine how I've never done it before. I've never competed or bodybuilded or done bodybuilding or bikini shows, but we had someone on our show, Jonna, Miss J Fitness, and she was a bodybuilder, and she was telling us how when it was her, when she was getting ready to compete, she'd tell her friends, peace out, like, I'm out, I can't do anything with you guys, I can't go out with you guys, I can't, just because it's such a dedication and it's so much work. I imagine, I've never personally done it, but I've done research. Like, I just get curious and I look stuff up, or just and from hearing from you. So that's good that you guys do it together. I imagine it can be difficult if within a couple, if one person's doing it and the other's not, which I'm sure that happens, but to have the one significant other have to like be super strict, like you say, you weigh every gram of food and all that stuff, that's hard for someone to understand if they don't do it or don't want to do it. So I imagine that that's been super helpful that you two are in it together. Like, I imagine you guys kind of feed off each other and help each other.
Yeah. And it's I think for your families too, I mean, both of us have experienced over the last couple of years with our parents, they're it makes for awkward family get-togethers. It's like, can you eat this? Can you eat that? Can you, it's like, they don't understand either. And they think, the perception is, I think sometimes they think that we're depriving ourselves, or that we're doing something unhealthy, or, all these other, whatever, I don't know what goes on in their minds. Like, we're not enjoying life. And the truth is, we're the happiest we've ever been. We feel amazing. I get blood work done 3 times a year. I'm constantly seeing my doctor. My doctor always says, if everybody did what you did, I wouldn't have a job. So
wow,
it's hard for them to understand that. But.
Right. It is a full-time job. And sorry, Josh, it's a sport. You're competing in a sport. So you're going to laugh at this, but I've macro counted before. Like, that's whatever, just to help me, like, so I've macro counted, and my friends would be like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm measuring my food. Why? So like, even just doing that and not doing it as strictly as bodybuilders do, that was just for me to make sure I was eating enough at one point in my life, just to kind of, and it helped me, keep track of my nutrition. But so if I'm thinking that was hard for my friends to understand. I can't imagine how hard it is for, friends of bodybuilders who it's like way more strict than that to understand how dedicated it is.
You tend to, like, when I look around at my friends, like, I'm blessed that, I mean, outside of maybe 2 or 3, I can't think of any of them that don't compete. Like, we've just kind of gravitated towards each other. We understand each other. We are similar ages. We have kids. So it makes a huge difference. I mean, we get together for, we have a birthday party coming up this weekend at my house. And everybody that's coming, like, they all pretty much compete. So nobody says anything, or it's not weird. Like, we've had parties when people come and they bring their own Tupperware with their pre-made food in it.
Yeah.
Or we'll have a Halloween last year. I think Doug, the guy that owns this company, we had a party at his house, and he doesn't compete. His wife doesn't compete, but he caters to athletes. That's his whole business, and he understands it very well. And he's like, hey, he had like crock pots of white rice, crock pots of chicken. I mean, like everything, salt. I mean, everything we need, he had it there. And it was almost like, we don't like I know a lot of people need like parties revolve around food, parties revolve around alcohol and things like that. And to us, like our parties revolve around music and friendship and like having a good time and laughing and having fun. We don't, like, food is not a thing to us. We will once in a while, just for fun, we'll have donuts or whatever else, but like most of us don't really drink. It's just not part of our lifestyle, and we're all very similar people. So it definitely makes a huge difference. So it's hard when I talk to people and talk about how to do things. You know, I always tell them at the very beginning, like, the first thing I ask them is, what does your support look like? What is your wife, your friends, and stuff like that? Because those are real things, and it's very difficult if you don't have that support. And there's many years where, you know, my parents and my wife's parents understand now, but there are many years where, I mean, there was times where we just didn't even want to go to family functions because it gets old, like hearing the same thing over and over again. Like, can you eat this? Can you guys do this? Can you do that? And then like the way they say it and look at you, they think that there's something wrong with you. And it gets old to try to defend that. But we've gotten to a place now, we've been doing it for so long that, you know, it's not really that much of an issue now. So,
Yeah.
No, man, everything you just said is huge, because obviously, like I said, our whole goal here is connection. And so, you know, everything you're talking about as far as your support system, your group of friends, the connection you guys have, and not just the connection because you guys enjoy being around each other, but there's a connection of the passion you guys have for bodybuilding and fitness and staying healthy. And obviously you guys all have kids. So like, I just love hearing that, because I think it's so, like you said, it's so important for us to have a community of people that we can lean on. And that being said, if someone's hearing this, or if there's someone out there that is like, man, I've been thinking about the bodybuilding thing, or I would like to try it, or maybe I just started it. Is this something that a person can do by themselves, or it may be possible, but is it way more beneficial to have someone like you said, Ariel, right? Like you're a trainer in your corner, or your wife, right? Someone who's there going on that journey with you, or, you know, like what's your opinion on that? Is it possible to do by yourself, or is it not maybe the best?
Yeah. I mean, I think if you want to do an amateur show, or there's some smaller federations that you can do if you want to just, you know, go online and do your own thing. I think there's a point that you could try it. In fact, it's not a bad place to start, and then go to someone after that and say, hey, look, this is what I've done in the past. Because I think that way you see the difference. I think people who go to a coach, sometimes they take them for granted. And you got to remember, these coaches spend a lot of time. Like it's a definite science. Like I don't have one person that we work with, and my coach doesn't have one person he works with that has the same meal plan, the same diet, the same nothing. We all do things different. And as a coach, you know, the longer you work with someone, you see how their body responds, because people respond to things different. I have friends that respond to sweet potato really, really well. I don't. I strictly just use white rice. It's easy. It's super cheap. And when I was younger, it was like you ate brown rice and you had broccoli and you had chicken, and you ate that like 8 times a day, right? So there's that. You could go online and look at that. It's old school bodybuilding. And you could definitely do that, increase your cardio, calories in, calories out, practice posing, get a tan, get some board shorts or swimsuit, and go out there and do your thing. Totally could. And in fact, I would say that's probably the best way to start. And then from there, then look into hiring a coach and ask for recommendations and talk to people who have been with them, because you become a family with that person. So you want to make sure that you connect with them and click with them. Ariel, he's competed himself. His brother's a pro. He has, you know, he has more pros in the federation than I think any other coach. He's got a ton of guys in Olympia. And he's a godly man. And we have some very deep conversations about faith and family and different things like that. So we have there's a connection that goes beyond that, beyond bodybuilding. And I think that's important because this is someone you're going to spend a lot of time with, and you have to be able to trust. And, I just think that's the best way to go. So,
yeah. That's what I kind of figured based on everything you've told us up to this point.
You appreciate it more that way, I think.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I think you kind of test it out. It's like, oh, this is kind of cool. But if you want to get to that next level, I think with anything, right? Like if you want to get to that next level, I think it does require the assistance of someone who's gone there before and who really knows the ropes. Otherwise, you have no one to sharpen you, right? Like you're just kind of trying to figure it out yourself.
I mean, I can tell you that from when I first started to the year that he and I spent together, I look back, because you see yourself every day, so you don't notice it as much. But I look at pictures of myself and I think, how do I look that much different? But I think about the things that my training is totally different. It goes against anything that I've ever learned before. I probably work out less than I did before. Food plays a huge part. It's different than when you have somebody who understands that and they can look at you and think, because in bodybuilding, it's not just about being lean. They want you to stay full. So they want full muscle belly. So if you deplete yourself too much and you get super lean and you're vascular and you've got veins everywhere and you look at people are like, whoa, he's super lean. But the truth is your muscles are flat. And so, it comes down to, this is crazy. So it'll go to like an hour before the show and, I'm eating rice cakes with peanut butter and I'm trying to fill my muscle. I'm trying to fill my, glycogen stores up. I'm trying to fill myself back up and stay full. And then it's like, I eat a Snickers bar about a minute before I walk on stage. It's just a rush of sugar. I'll have a little bit of red wine because it's a vasodilator. There's a lot that goes into it. So what you see on stage and what you see on magazines, this is really, really important for people to understand. When you take a stage shot or a magazine or a modeling photo or something like that, and you try to compare yourself to that, you have to understand that you're comparing yourself to someone who looks a certain way for a period of maybe a couple weeks out of their entire year. Mm-hmm. It's not sustainable. It's not healthy to stay that way either. So, you get, we're, less than 3% body fat. That's very, very low. And it's just not realistic to stay that way. You can't, you just can't do that. So.
Right. Yeah. I like to, so I'm a high school PE teacher, Chad, and I try to educate my kids about that. And so I remember reading about that a while ago, like when I would do my own research on bodybuilding, I'm just always curious as to how you can get your body to look like that. And then I'm like, well, how long, and so, when we go over, body image stuff, especially with the girls, and, I'll show them a quick, just like a, bodybuilding, picture of someone. And I'll try to explain that to them, because I do think people who don't have the education or knowledge of what it takes, and like you just said, everything you just said, a glass of red wine, there's all these different things that do, make your body look a certain way, but for only temporarily. And it's like you said, the 3% body fat, it's important to know that's really low in that. And that can mess with, your hormones and all that stuff for a long period of time. And so it's just really interesting, the whole concept. So,
Yeah, you got, especially, so women are much more, there's much more that goes into women, because the hormones with women is, I've seen girls just destroy their hormone and their everything, and rebound. They get so small and so skinny, and then they stop and they go right straight back to eating how they used to eat, and they blow up. I've seen them put on 30, 40 pounds, in weeks.
Yeah.
So it's very important to understand that when you do that, there's also a thing called reverse diet, to where you kind of keep it the same, you back off of this and back off of that, and you slowly start adding stuff back in so your body slowly adjusts back to normal, instead of just, I've seen people go out that night and, drink and have hamburgers and fries and cake and all this ice cream, all this stuff, get up the next morning, get on a plane and go from Pittsburgh to Sacramento and have to take a diuretic just because their feet are so swollen they can't get their shoes off.
No.
It happens. So you not understanding that kind of stuff is really important. And you're right. It's especially with social media, and I have 2 daughters. So, I hear the conversations and what goes on and what they talk about. And it's they have a very false sense of reality and what is normal. And, they don't understand that, I'm, especially for my wife, because my wife does a lot of fitness modeling. Mm-hmm. And so they know, they see that mom looks like that in a picture, but it's because mom is twerked and moved into a position that's so uncomfortable and so that hurts in order to obtain that look in that picture. They understand that. But most kids, I don't think, especially young girls, they don't see that. They think I'm supposed to look like that. And the truth is that person doesn't even look like that. Yeah. Sometimes they do, but very, very rarely. So,
Sorry, I just wanted to before I forget, I wanted to circle back to something because I think it ties into this perfectly. Something you mentioned as you were telling us your story was you're like, hey, I put on, I think it was 9 pounds of muscle, which, it doesn't sound like a lot. I heard somebody on a podcast recently mention that, hey, you hear actors all the time, right? You hear, oh man, Chris Hemsworth put on 25 pounds of muscle for Thor. You hear these stories, oh, Christian Bale did this thing for Batman. And you hear all these guys, it's like, this dude's like, it's not realistic. There's other stuff going on there. And so when you say it is funny, because I think a lot of people, and I probably would have thought the same thing prior to hearing that podcast. They're like, 9 pounds of muscle. I'm like, that's pretty good, but is it really that good? But in reality, that's amazing compared, you know what I'm saying? For a person who's doing it the right way, it's a ton of muscle. But like you said, social media, what we hear, celebrities do and go through, they put out the numbers. Who knows if those numbers are even accurate, but that's what we hear. And then it's like, well, maybe I need to do this diet to put on, 15 pounds of muscle and play Thor. You know what I mean? It's a crazy thing for sure.
Yeah. And then you see them the next year and they're half the size again.
Right.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It's a weird thing.
That's good.
Hey, I want to ask you too, man, kind of going in a different direction. Obviously you and your wife are in incredible shape. When you guys go to school functions for your kids, do they think it's oh, is there a WWE event happening here? Who are these people that just rolled up to the school? You must just terrify other parents.
No, not really. I mean, we've been around for so long. I mean, it's funny, they don't say that, but obviously they definitely make comments. My kids, friends are terrified of me, which I think it's funny because they're like my dad likes everybody. My dad's the least, he doesn't even care if I date. He's, I just don't. I like everybody.
Try telling the young dude that. Some young guy that's trying to date your daughter. Tell him that he's gonna be terrified.
No, I'm not. I don't. I'm whatever.
Yeah.
They're good kids, so I trust them. So.
Oh, there you go. That's awesome. Yeah. I still feel like there's a school of terrified dudes, when they see you. But that's just me. I'm not at your school. I'm not your family.
No, yeah. I mean, people say things. I mean, I just got back from Arizona, and obviously there's. You get used to it after a while. Obviously it's a compliment, so it's not a bad thing, but people, I was at a club last weekend in Arizona, downtown Scottsdale. And I got asked several times or commented several times. It's always guys. It's never girls. Right. Always guys that are like, dude.
Yeah.
What's your secret?
Yeah.
Right.
Asking.
Yeah. Well, I'm just again, I told Chad this before we started recording. I ask all the dumb questions and Deb ask all the, smart, what is your body? How does your body react? But just thinking about that, I can't help but think back to when I was playing baseball growing up and you have the end of the, year party at someone's pool and you see all these coaches that have the dad bods and taking off their shirts. I'm like, if they see you roll up to a pool party and it's just a normal situation, it's dang, Chad's here. We can't take off shirts. You have all these dudes just swim with their shirts on. You know what I mean?
Maybe I don't. But
his silence says everything.
I was the guy that swam with the shirt on as a kid.
See, there you go. You understand it then.
I'm super. Yeah, I don't judge. I don't I know what that's like. I grew up that way, and it's funny. My brother, other people in my family, will say, "You weren't that chubby," and I'm like. And then a couple of weeks ago, I was somewhere. and some guys that I went to high school with showed up to watch me DJ, and they were telling my wife, they're like, I've known him since he was a little short guy who's about this wide. they remember.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
And they're like, I can't believe, like, it's so weird to me to see him like this. And I'm like,
Well,
yeah, but
lots of hard work. And
Yeah,
then
for sure.
Chad, what's your favorite? What is your go-to? Like as soon as you're done competing, like you walk off the stage, do you just like have a donut? Do you have like a hamburger? Like what do you like treat yourself to?
I like burger, fries, and like an Oreo cookie shake. It's like my thing.
Nice.
Yeah,
That sounds
I'm
awesome.
not like pizza gives me a stomach ache. I
greasy.
like it, but and even when I'm leading up to my show, like there's sometimes where I get too flat and they're trying to keep me full, and I'll have like a double, 2 orders of fries and a milkshake, like even like, the week before a show.
Oh, wow.
Like once a week, I'll have that just to kind of fill me up. I'll wake up the next morning and it's weird. Like I said, it's science. So you'll go to bed and look a certain way. This is a true story. You can be done competing and then be kind of flat. You can be sitting on the couch, and I love, like, my other thing is hot tamale candies.
Ooh,
So
I
and
love
licorice road ropes, the ropes, not the vines, the ropes. They're hard to find.
Yeah.
But I'll sit and eat like hot tamale candies on the couch in a pair of shorts, and I'll literally watch my legs just fill up with veins. Like it's creepy looking. My abs, everything. It's just that rush of glycogen just rushes through your body, and your skin's like paper thin, and so your body reacts to it. So it's like that kind of stuff to me is super interesting. I like it. I like to see when it happens. I'm always the guy that takes pictures. I'm like, oh, this is so weird. And I said to my mom, and she's like, that looks really unhealthy.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
It's
What
really,
was-
it is
go ahead.
crazy. I don't mean to cut you off, Josh,
No,
but like
please.
it's crazy just how your body reacts to it's food, it's nutrition,
Yeah.
it's the carbs, it's the micronutrients, the macronutrients, and it's just, to actually physically see that happen. People don't get to do that. I don't get to see that happen. The only thing I see happen is if I have too many glasses of wine, my feet swell up. That's it. Like you just said, like that's it. I don't see any other, like, I don't get to do that. So that's that's a pretty cool thing. And it's a testimony to like what you put in your body, your body reacts to it. It's not,
totally.
it's not just, oh, I'm just built this way. Like I understand everyone has different bone structures, but you know what I'm saying? So it's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Well, since we're on food, I'm curious, I mean, obviously it sounds like once you decided to do this, you were just in it, but I imagine there was a food that you really enjoyed that you knew had to go. Like, you know what I mean? You had to put it on the train and just let it ride off into the sunset. What was that one food?
So that's a great question. So, so the truth is, for years, I ate similar to what I do now. I trained as hard or harder than I do now, but I never looked the way I did. And the reason was I would come home and I would sit on the couch, and I love chips and salsa. And
me too.
I liked margaritas. So my wife and I were like, we worked hard. We'd come home, we'd go to the gym. This is super funny. We'd go to the gym, work out super hard, come home, change our clothes, sit in front of the TV, watch Monday Night Football or whatever was on, make a margarita. And then we all know once the alcohol kicks in, you start getting the munchies, or at least I do. So my go-to was chips and salsa, and I would literally eat. Like sometimes she would look at me and I knew what she was thinking, and she was trying to be nice, but it was like, are you going to eat that whole bag? And there were times that I almost did. And so when I decide, but my point is I would do that regularly. And so I never saw results. In fact, knowing what I know now, it was worse than just eating bad all the time. And so I would just, because you think about, you drink alcohol, it slows your metabolism. It's a depressant, it slows your metabolism down. And so now my metabolism's come down, and I just put a whole bunch of chips and salsa in my body. So all I did was just go to bed and make myself fat. And there are people, like most of us, we do that daily. And then we wonder why we are where we are. So that, for me, that was my biggest thing. I had a buddy of mine. We've been friends forever. His name is Steve Boris. And he's a freak. Like if you saw him, we paint him green for Halloween because he looked like the Hulk. And he looks like that year round. And so he was always super patient with me, and he would just say, and every time I'd say I was going to like, I'm going to start getting in shape, I want to compete, he was like, okay, buddy, that's cool. You know, he was super funny, you know, like nice to me. But I knew when he said it, it was almost like, you're so full of crap. Yeah. And so finally, that was like that thing for me. I finally just one day when my wife was competing, I said, okay, I got to stop. And I knew what my problem was. I liked margaritas and I liked chips and salsa. And if I could quit those two things, then I would be fine. And so I'll tell you, I found this is very helpful for a lot of people. So I'll tell you, this is what I did. I would make a margarita. So I was like, okay, I can't just stop cold turkey. And this sounds terrible, by the way, but I'm just being honest. I couldn't just stop, because every time I stopped, I wouldn't do it. So what I did was, in my mind, I said, I'm going to make a margarita. And every time I make one, I'm going to put less tequila in it until I got to a point where my wife was making them for me, and she would say, I didn't put anything in it. And so in my mind, I was sitting there one day and I thought, why am I drinking this? Like, what is the point? It's just sugar lime juice now at this point. And so that for me clicked, and I thought, I don't need it anymore. And so I literally, like, overnight pretty much just stopped. And when I stopped, my munchies stopped. So then I stopped eating chips and salsa. And then I started realizing if I got hungry, I would drink more water. And because a lot of times you think you're hungry, but it's really your body's thirsty, it needs water. And so, and I drink, I try to drink 1.5 to 2 gallons of water a day, which is a lot. And so it's a lot to do. But I try to keep myself hydrated. It's good for your skin. It keeps your body full, keeps you flushed. But I started doing that. And then I just decided I'm going to change my bedtime, because I would stay up till 11 o'clock at night. And that was the problem. I'd sit there and drink margarita, and the news would come on, late night television and whatever else. And then I'd go to bed, buzzed and with a belly full of chips and salsa. And like, this is not good. So once I stopped that, like, things started changing pretty quickly. And then I was like, okay, I can do this. And that's kind of, when I stopped and started doing that, I just kind of went this way, and I haven't looked back. It's been 3 years, I think now. That's 3 years that I've been doing this.
That's awesome.
I haven't
it's
stopped.
crazy.
And I don't miss it. I really don't even think about it. In fact, one time, a while back, for whatever reason, I'm like, I have a margarita. And my friends are like, really, you're going to have one? I'm like, yeah. So I had one, and I drank half of it, and I didn't finish it because it sounded good in my mind. But once I started drinking it, my body has just gotten so used to not having it. It didn't like it.
Like, what are you doing?
But I had to train myself to do that. Right.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
No, that's awesome. Yeah. I just had to know, because I feel like there's always, for everybody, I can't remember. I think John had said something similar. Like, there's that one thing that is like the last thing to go, but once it goes, then it, like you said, it's just kind of like dominoes from there. It becomes a lot easier, because especially with something you love like that, it's not just a physical thing, but it's also a mental, emotional thing too, like you kind of alluded to. So once that's gone, then you were off to the races. I love hearing that, man. I love chips and salsa, and I don't plan on becoming a bodybuilder, so please forgive me. I'm gonna keep eating them until I really pay for it. Yeah,
chips, salsa, and guac for me. No margaritas. The alcohol margaritas give me heartburn now. At my
I don't
age,
drink at all, and I just do the chips. Like, just the chips give me the munchies. You know what I mean? I'm like, yeah, I just eat them. So, good for you, man. I'm gonna be inspired by you, but I'm gonna still eat the chips and salsa. I can't stop.
We'll eat them for you, Chad. How about that?
Yeah, man. We'll do that. We'll do that. So I'll be getting fatter, and Chad's gonna win another competition.
Okay, we can work off the chips and salsa on the dance floor while Chad DJs for us.
There you go.
That's a good. Hey, you know what? She's a pro podcaster. That is a good segue. We're gonna do the same thing. So I'm sure there's some people that are like, this bodybuilding stuff's cool. Like, when are we gonna start talking about the DJing? So, and if you're only listening and not watching the video, like it says DJ Xstofr behind him. He's got the board back there. He's got this massive speaker behind his head. He is not just like a part-time DJ. He may technically be a part-time DJ, but like, when you watch his stuff on Instagram, you do this all the time. And I'm gonna be honest with you. When I first started seeing like videos of you on Facebook DJing, I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. He just kind of has fun. And it's like, I kept seeing videos like, oh, this dude does this all the time. Is there ever a moment when there's not music in your house? There we go. If you guys can't see his face,
like, no.
I was like, heck no.
Ask my wife that.
Yeah. Now, does she love music as much as you do?
She does. She totally supports it. I mean, there becomes a point where, I have a 10-year-old. She needs to go to school in the morning. So usually it's usually about 10 or 10:30.
Okay.
She'll walk over to me and just stand next to me and say, and it used to be, are you going to play much longer? And, I have headphones. I could use headphones, but it just doesn't feel the same.
Yeah.
In my mind, like everybody needs to hear it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My neighbors and everybody.
Yeah.
See, I'm gonna be honest, dude.
Yeah.
I'm gonna pretend like you didn't say any of that, because the image I have of you in my head is just like from when you wake up to when you go to bed, which is probably the same time. Like, do you even sleep? I just feel like you stay up all night and play music all night. That's the image I have in your head. So what you just said, I'm not gonna lie.
I do sometimes.
See,
there are times where, especially if I'm trying to create edits or do something, because I want to have stuff that nobody else has or stuff that's different.
Sure.
And I grew up in high school in the 80s and 90s, and so I love all that music, but I love EDM. I love high energy music. So I'm always trying to find one-hit wonders or like stuff from back then that I can mix with newer, upbeat, high energy stuff. So it's like people know the words, and you'll see it. Like if you're in a club and you play stuff like that, you can look around a room and you can, especially the DJ, you can kind of look around and see, and you're like, okay, that person's not really having any fun. They're about this age, and you can play something and you can see their whole demeanor change. And you can see them have fun. You can see them sing the song, and it's fun to do that. It's very empowering. But it's fun. I mean, but to answer your question, there are times where I wake up in the morning. I don't sleep a lot. Usually it's because I'm getting older and I have to go pee, but I will get up sometimes and I don't go back to sleep. I'll get on my phone and I'll go to some of my DJ pool apps and stuff like that, and I'll look up, just like I'll hear words. It's weird, but like I'll hear words, and words will remind me of a song from, I didn't even know, like just different time periods of my life. And I'll be like, let's sing that song. And then I'll figure it out. I'll Google it. And then that will start like this whole like day long thing where obviously I have my job, but I'll get up. So I get up in the morning. I usually get up, I go straight and I do cardio first thing every morning, except for Sundays. I do anywhere from 30 to 40 minutes. I ride an attack bike with my arms and legs. Nothing crazy, but that's my morning routine. So I do that, and I put my headphones on and I look for new music and I download new music and just do stuff like that. So I start my day every day like that. Then I have my normal job. I work all day. And when the day's over, I go to the gym, and again, I go right back to music. And when I'm done with that, I come home, I eat, and I go right there. And sometimes I'll stay there. I mean, there are times, honestly, there's times where I'm there till 2:00 in the morning and I don't realize what time it is. And the next morning, my wife will say, what time did you go to bed? And I'm like, I don't know. But the truth is I do know. It was like 2:00 in the morning. I get carried. It's like, I
get that.
It is for all intents and purposes, it's my life. Like it's what I enjoy more than anything. So
yeah, that's awesome.
More than bodybuilding. I don't even, the funny thing is that people will say stuff about being a pro, and I'm like, oh yeah. I'm like, well, what do I do with it now? I'm not going to win Olympia. I'm not going to quit my day job. It's cool and all, but that's what I care about. Like that's my passion.
Yeah. So, that's awesome. What's the coolest place you've DJ'd at, or for who for?
That's a good question.
Honestly, like recently, I have so many friends that have supported me along the way of doing this. It's been that whole story. I mean, the bodybuilding thing it's cool. Like I like it, it's cool that it happened, but this and how everything has happened so far has been a little while. Like there's some days I think, how is this happening? And I think sometimes my friends probably think that too. But the truth is, so I'll tell you, this is the story. So when I was a child, I was born in Grand Forks, North Dakota on an Air Force base. My dad was in the Air Force and mom was a stay-at-home mom. and I don't remember it, but I've seen pictures. My mom has recorded. She's recorded an album. And it was many, many years ago. But so music has always been a part of my life. And when I was a child, my mom used to put headphones on me and we would lay on the floor and listen to music for hours and hours and hours. And I've seen the pictures. My mom would talk about it. And so music's always been I'm not a very emotional person. I'm not saying I'm not compassionate, but I don't for years I was on a transplant program. So I dealt with organ donation. And it takes a very certain kind of person to do that and to detach yourself from death. And so that's just kind of how I am. But music has always brings out emotion in me, whether it's happy, sad, it does all kinds of different things. But when COVID hit, I had some friends, we went to Vegas, we did all this stuff and everything was around music and mostly EDM music. And it was so fun. And when COVID hit, we had nowhere to go. Our friends had nowhere to go. Everything was shut down. It was closed. It was depressing. I had friends that were, that I found out later were, you think about it, I have my wife and my child, my dog and my pool and for all intents and purposes, my life is not that bad. Even though everything's closed down. But I have friends that are single, have no kids, live in an apartment and have nowhere to go. And so I had several friends who battled some pretty bad depression. And one day I was like, I'm going to figure out a way to take what we had and bring it to my home. So my wife and I opened up our doors and we literally, the first year, so all of 2020. So when did it start? It's all running together. 2019, right? March 2019.
When did COVID start?
Yep.
March 2020.
2020. Okay.
Yeah.
So from about May all the way through now, has probably been the most fun time of my wife and I's life. Wow. And it's been because I took that on really it's a passion, but really what it was that I didn't like the fact that my friends had nowhere to go and nothing to do. And I didn't like that some of them were depressed. I really cared. And so that was a way for me to bring people to my home. I have a pool, we had parties and the cops came every single time. Yeah. And it's I have concert speakers, it's loud. I'm not going to lie. It's made for, the stuff I have is made for, 200 plus people. And I have it in my home or in my backyard. We had, my one of the guys there's been 3 people who have been very instrumental in all of this for me. And one of them was a guy, his name's Sean Hammond. He's been around for days as a DJ here in the area. He has a production company where he sets up, he's got, the first time I ever met him, I walked into his garage and I was I stood there with my mouth open and then I found out that's not even all this stuff. It's a garage. To me, in my mind, it's a 4-car garage and it's full of nothing but audio stuff. And it was full on concert. And I didn't really know him. I actually went there to rent a laser for my daughter's 9-year-old birthday for her birthday party in the garage. And I was like, what is all this stuff? And we became friends and he became a mentor to me, like an older brother. And finally, one day I just asked him, why are you doing this for me? Why are you helping? We were on the phone all the time and he literally taught me everything I know, everything I know. And helped me with this was I didn't know what stuff to buy. It was I would text him and say, hey, what do you think about this? No, you don't want that. You want this. And he would send me a link and all I do is click on the link and buy it. And at the time, clubs were closed. So DJs they had no money. And so they were dumping everything. And so I went and I bought stuff for sometimes 60, 70% of its value. And I bought all this stuff to where I full on just have, I can do everything. I have a, it's a $10,000 laser that's used in concerts that I paid $5,000 for. And people thought I was crazy for buying it. But the truth is it's brought so much fun You can rent them. I mean, I've flown giant bats the size of my neighbor's house on his house during Halloween. And it's like the kids all come. Like it's been super fun. And this guy, like, he taught me all that stuff. And as I started going and doing more, and I would just stay up until late, and I just started figuring things out, and I got better and better and better. And then, just from there, I started doing, I was doing house parties, and then I was at a house party here in Roseville, and it's probably a little after 1 a.m. I was just starting to wind down, and a friend of mine walked in, and I'm like, what are they doing here? And he brought with like 15 people with him. And one of them was a guy, and he walked up to me and he said, hey, I want you to meet my friend Novak. And he's like, he's a DJ, and I knew you guys would like really hit it off, and like you guys have a lot in common. And so this guy walks up to me, and he's like, this is all your stuff? And I said, yeah. And he's like, and you know how to operate all of this at the same time? And I said, yes. And he's like, wow. He's like, that's really impressive. And to me, it was like, I didn't know any different, right? Yeah. So we talked for a little while. He was telling me about different stuff, and we were looking at stuff, and I was like, well, this guy knows his stuff. Like, he's pretty, like, he knows a lot. I had no idea. So he left, and he said, here's my Instagram. And I was just busy. I was doing my stuff, and then I had to clean her and take everything apart and put everything away. But the next morning I got up and I was laying on the couch. And so I went to his Instagram and I looked him up, and I'm like, he's verified on Instagram. He's got like, 900,000 followers. He's got a lot. And I'm like, well, this is him. And I'm like, and he's like, I went on to, I want to say it's not SoundCloud. It's Spotify. And it's like, top 20 emerging EDM artists for 2021. And I'm like, what? So I told my wife, I'm like, do you know that's who this guy was that was here last night? And she's like, no. And so I reached out to him, and we just kind of started developing a friendship. And it was just the craziest thing. And he's like, hey, I'm going to be in Sacramento in a couple of weeks. And I started watching like his tour dates. Like, he was in Sacramento, and then he would finish DJing and get on a plane and go to Vegas. And then he would get done at Vegas and go straight to San Diego. He's like all over. He lives in Puerto Rico. He's from here originally. Wow. And we just started developing a friendship. And he was so nice to me and so helpful. And then he came here one time. He said, hey, I'm going to be playing at Social Nightclub down in Sacramento. Mm-hmm. Come with me. And I'm like, really? And he's like, yeah, come with me. So I went with him, and I spent the entire night in the DJ booth with him and just watched what was going on. I met a couple other guys, a guy that opens for Diplo and plays it in Vegas, and like he's on Diplo's Revolution. I mean, I met all these guys this night. It was like a whirlwind. I was just kind of like taken back. And I developed friendships with these guys, because it's one thing I've noticed, the DJ world is very tight knit. There's no competition, because there's a never ending music, and there's more places to play than there are DJs. So there's no competition. It's like a brotherhood. Mm-hmm. And so I found my people. They love music as much as I do. And so he and I just started talking. We became friends. He started helping me with things. And then about, this was in July, so no, June. So in July, I competed for the first time as a pro. It was in Pittsburgh. It was my pro debut. And I reached out, it was my wife's birthday. So it was the same time, we're going to be there, her birthday. And so I was like, I'm going to take her out. Let's go dancing. We'll go do something. I'll find some clubs to go to. So I got online and I just looked up clubs in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And I found like the top club. I looked it up. I'm like, well, this place is sweet. Like, look, they have a rooftop bar and a pool. And like, this place is crazy. Nellie's been there. Like, there's all this. It's crazy. Wow. And so I looked up like this is funny. He's going to laugh when he sees this. He's going to laugh. I looked up like who's like top DJ was at this place. And I found this guy as DJ Tweak. And so I sent him a message and I said, hey, my name's Chad. I'm a DJ. I live in Sacramento. Actually, I said I live in California, and I'm going to be there to compete. And this is super random. I've never met this guy before ever in my life.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm going to be there to compete. And it's my wife's birthday. So when I'm done, we're looking for a place to go out afterwards. And I was wondering, do you have recommendations or anything? His response back to me was, yes, reach out to this girl. And then he connected us on a 3-way conversation by text message. And her response was, I have a table next to DJ, bottle service for you, comped. And I'm like,
wow.
So I was like, well, this is cool. So then I'm like, ooh, I like this guy's cool. So we fly out there, I compete. And then afterwards I said, hey, I want to come see you. Like, I really appreciate you doing that for me. Like, I don't know, like, I don't even know why you did that for me. And so I go to meet him, and it was, I'm not kidding, it was instant. Like, the moment we started talking to each other, I was like, we're going to be friends for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
And what I didn't know is that his best friend, this is super random, his best friend is the current Mr. Olympia.
Wow.
Oh, crazy.
Right.
What?
So he said, when you said you were going to compete, I knew what you were talking about. He goes, and for whatever reason, he thought I was from San Francisco. Now, the truth is, he thought I was like this bigger DJ and just wasn't sure.
Yeah.
But whatever it was, like, it aligned. We became friends. We stayed up. I mean, we spent that evening with him, and we went up, and he took us. There's a place called Mount Washington up in Pittsburgh that sits up. It's up on a hill. It sits in the city. Is absolutely. It's one of the most beautiful cities I've ever been to. Me and my wife went up there with him and my buddy Doug, and we talked for like quite a while till like 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning. And we left, and he's like, we're going to be friends for the rest of our life. Like, we just knew. He owns a marketing company. Mm-hmm. And so I got back, and we started talking. He's a producer, so he edits. He does his own music. He's got music on iTunes, wherever else. So I connected with these two guys who have pretty much, one's just been a good mentor to me and helped me like get in the scene. And then the other one, ironically, is now, it's like, he's my marketing guy. So he does marketing. And so my website comes out November 1st. If you go to www.xstofr.com, it has the launch countdown date on it.
Nice.
His company is the one that did it.
Wow.
Man,
Yeah,
That's awesome. What a crazy story, like the connections and stuff,
it's
and like
super
what
weird.
a small world. That's crazy.
Yeah. It's super weird. It's like, there were just times where, and then I got like this club would, I played at this club, and then like the next morning I got like 3 or 4 people reached out to me and said, hey, I met you from so-and-so. And the truth is, I've never met these people before. They just said I was like, I get it. Okay, cool. And, but I was flattered. Right. And so
Sure.
That just kind of like, it was like overnight, it just kind of woke up, and that kind of happened. And he and I were talking, and I said, dude, this is crazy. Like, why are you doing all this for me? Mm-hmm. And he said, I'll never forget this. And it's totally true. He said, life is about connections, and it's about meeting people and being good to people and knowing people. And he said, it only takes one right person to change your life overnight. Mm-hmm. And he goes, I truly believe that. He's like, and you have a passion for this, like I do. And we align in so many different ways in life. And he's like, I see something in you. And he's like, I want to help you.
Wow.
And we're super good friends. He knows he's going to be on here. I asked him tonight, I said, do you mind if I say anything about you? He's like, yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Nice. It's a really good story. And I'm glad you shared that, because it's just, like Josh said, that's what we try to do here, is just to, connect people to, people like yourself, but just to remind people to continue to stay connected to people, go out and meet people, because you never know who you're going to meet. You never know what kind of connection you're going to make, because look at the story you just told us. Like, that's crazy.
It is super true. I tell my kids that. So I went to 2 or 3 elementary schools, like 2. Mm-hmm. I went to 1 junior high, but I did go to 3 high schools. And, so I haven't really shared this all. I mean, so most people know this, but my wife and I just sold our home here in California. We're actually moving to Arizona next month. Mm. And, I have my 10-year-old, she's very close. Like we have a street where I live now that's very hard to duplicate. Like, it's a very close knit group of people, families. Our kids have all grown up together. She's been here. This is the only house she's ever had since she was born. Mm. And it's emotionally, it's very hard for her. But I was telling her this morning on the way to school, I said, she asked me how I knew somebody. And I said, honey, I go, it's funny you bring that up. I said, because I know that you are struggling. I know that she's a very strong person anyways, but I said, I know that you're struggling with moving, and I know you're worried about leaving your friends and having to meet new people and everything else. I said, but I want to tell you, I said, when you ask me how I know that person, I know that person because of the situation that you're being put in right now. And I said, when I moved around, I said, I literally, this is no joke. Like between sports, DJ, competing, my wife and I training people, and we have clients that are like throughout the country. Like they're not just here because everything we do is online. We laugh because we're like, it doesn't matter where we go. We have a connection with somebody somewhere. Even like we could go to Brazil right now. We've got friends that we could stay with in Brazil. We've got friends in Texas. We have a lot of friends in Arizona and family. That's why we're going there. But my daughters, my oldest daughter, she laughs because my friends always called me the Chad. So for a long time, my Instagram was the Chad because it was kind of a joke. Yeah. But what I didn't know is that my niece and my daughter, so apparently because of bodybuilding, I think is what it was. I was very well known at the high schools. And so they would call me, like they would see me and like, oh, it's the Chad. It was kind of like joke. And my daughter and my daughter would always say, Dad, do you know how many guys I'm friends with because of you? Your Instagram, like all this. It's super funny because I honestly don't have that many followers on Instagram. It's not something I put a total much of time into. Like my wife has a ton, but I don't really do it. But then I'll go places and people will say, oh, you're the DJ or you're this or that. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, how do you know that? And they're like, because of social media. And I'm like, oh, but then I don't know. It's weird. I don't know. Like, I guess I'm just out there.
Yeah.
It's funny, but it's true. It's I took my daughter to college, and my wife and I were at lunch, and we're in Boise of all places. And some kid walks up to me and starts talking to me, and I'm thinking he thinks I'm somebody else. And then he starts talking about my daughter, and I'm like, oh no, he doesn't. He knows my daughter. And so I just kind of smiled. I went along with it. I was like, oh, cool. Nice to see you again. Da, da, da. And then I text my daughter and I snuck a picture of him. And I'm like, hey, she's like, oh yeah, that's Matt. And I'm like, who's Matt? And she's like, oh yeah, we went to high school together. And I'm like, how does he know who I am? She's like, because Dad, you DJ'd my senior ball. So they don't know you from senior ball. Like they're like, so it's super funny. So it's like, awesome. The point is, I was telling my daughter, like to your point, life will take you a lot of different places, but if you're open to meeting new people and putting yourself out there, and even if it's just like I tell my kids all the time, open doors for people. Like it's a lost art. Like nobody does it anymore. Everybody did it after 9/11. Mm-hmm. Open doors for people. Say please, thank you. Look for, I tell my youngest one this all the time. Look, because she's the popular girl at school. Look for the kids who are alone or look like they're by themselves or are sad or whatever else, and just say hi to them. Even if you just say hi to them, you'll make their day. Like ask them how they're doing, tell them their shoes are cute or like that kind of stuff. And I've always tried to distill that to my kids because you never know who you're going to meet and who they know and who they're connected to. And that difference you make in their life down the road could be huge for your own life.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah,
absolutely.
I love that.
I love that. I mean, we could talk about that. What you just said, I could talk about that for a whole nother episode. We'll have to have you on again, man, just to talk about those types of things. But no, I just agree with what Deb said too. Like everything that you just said over the last 5 minutes about connection is kind of the heart of this show. And I don't think we could have said it any better. If you want to take over the podcast, man, you can, but it sounds like you're pretty busy.
You can be our spokesperson. You can be our.
This is Chad's first podcast. Did you know that? I don't think we talked about that. This is Chad's first podcast.
I thought all day today, I'm like, what am I going to talk about? Like, what am I going to say? And then I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to have diarrhea of the mouth. I'm just going to go for it.
Chad, that's what we do every time. We just
every week, dude. That's what we do.
It's conversational.
That's exactly what we do. Hey, absolutely. So you fit right in, man.
Yeah.
I want to, like I said, we could talk about this forever, but I do want to be respectful of your time. Before I forget, I do want to ask you, okay, so you're at a festival, right? You're putting the festival on, you have an unlimited budget. Who are your top 3 DJs that you're bringing into that situation?
Ooh.
That's not even my question. That's my brother's question. He heard you were coming on, and I'm like, he's like, ask him this question. I'm like, all right, I'll do it.
Okay, so I will always say this. Some people will laugh because they'll think, oh, they're pop artists. They're not really DJs, whatever else. But I will always say the Chainsmokers. Okay. And I'll tell you why. There's a lot of DJs who get up and play or like push buttons and put their music out. But there's a inherent difference in someone who performs. And when I say that, the Chainsmokers put on a show. Like they are in tune with their audience. They are engaged. They will come out to the audience. They will, they will stop the show and talk about life. They are true performers. And as much as some people would say, well, they're not really, DJs, whatever else, they are like, they make it fun.
Yeah.
So I would always, honestly, I always go back to them as number one. Okay. So them for sure, just because of the engagement with people and everything else. And then past that. So you said 3, huh?
3. Yeah.
Ooh, that's a tough one.
It's like picking your favorite kids, right?
What's that?
It's like picking your favorite kids. There's probably so many choices, but
there's so many good ones. I recently saw, I went to DOS Energy in Utah.
That, yeah. That's crazy.
And I saw, for the first time, I saw Adventure Club, and I was really impressed with him. Similar, very much engaged with the audience. There are some DJs, and some people are going to get mad at me for saying this, but there are some DJs you'll find that they produce a show. So they everything's pre-done. So like the music's pre-done, they just push buttons and just kind of do it. Then there's other DJs who DJ, meaning, like when people think of, like I've had people say, you should have cue points and stuff like that. And basic cue points are like where you start and stop songs. Huh. For whatever reason, I can't do that. Because to me, I feel like it's the same thing over and over again. So I play by ear. So, and it's not always a good thing because it can sound bad, but for the most part, it doesn't. So those types of DJs are ones that they read the crowd, they're playing something, and it may not, instead of just going down a list of these are the songs I'm playing in this order, they're feeling the crowd and they see how people are, and they're like, something pops in their head, they see something and they go, oh my God, that reminds me of this. And they play that song and then the whole place goes crazy. And so he was somebody who I saw being like that. So I'd say him, and he's he's a little newer, been around for a while, but newer as far as, people that I've seen. And then past that, I'd probably throw somebody in different. I think especially when you go to festivals, it's good to have a different type of music every time. And EDM's EDM, but different EDM artists have a different style. And I would say Troy Boy. Troy Boy is, I saw him here recently too. It's a little bit slower of he's more in the some of his stuff is in the more in and I know this would mean a lot to people, but a typical middle of the road, good EDM is 125 to 130 BPMs. Okay. And that's beats per minute. Troy Boy he has some that are that way, but it's much more, it almost has a hip hop vibe to it. And another guy that's so it's just a very different sound than everybody else. And again, he's super engaged, gets up out of his board, will let the music play, get up, has a microphone, gets on stage, talks to people.
That's cool.
So I would say probably those. Skrillex is another good one too. Okay. Yep.
So coming soon, DJ Xstofr's own festival. I don't know the name of it.
Dude, I would love it. We're trying to. So we're actually in the talks right now with putting one on in Roseville. It was actually supposed to happen here in a couple of weeks, but the city of Roseville is a little difficult to deal with. Not in a bad way. Just that concept to them is just it's so far out there. It's just different, and it require much longer planning. Right. But it's something that they want to do. There's a couple people here who I played for and hit me up about it and asked me, "Hey, what do you think about this?" And I was like, "What do you mean? When can we do this?"
Yeah, for sure.
We talked about doing it like at the fairgrounds or something like that. It would be, obviously a much smaller scale and have to take off from there. But
Right.
I fully plan on, I've got a couple of clubs that I talk to here in Sacramento, and obviously I have so much family and friends here that when we move, I will probably, if I can, I'm going to try to come back once a month.
Okay, nice.
Just to play here in Sacramento. I need, like I said, connections is everything, and I don't want to lose those connections. And so for a lot of those people, there's this last year with music has been, and just the house parties and I've done friends' weddings, my daughter's senior ball. What else? I've done some stuff with Calvin Klein, and all that stuff. Like it's very interesting. Music it's an interesting thing. It doesn't always have to be the type of music somebody's in. And I'll give you an example. Is last year for Halloween, I set up in my front yard with the laser and smoke and like all this whole. My wife wrapped me as a mummy, and I had black light, so I was glowing, and I was DJing, and it was black. It was super cool.
That sounds pretty
super
cool.
fun. I have no videos of it. I can't believe that. But we at one point I looked at my driveway, and my driveway was like packed, like shoulder to shoulder people.
Oh my God.
And I looked at the age groups, and it was everywhere from little tiny kids to like 70-something-year-old women, and everybody's heads were doing the same thing. I thought,
love it.
And I was like, this is like life. Like I just seen all these people from different walks of life and different ages and stuff, all on the same page, because just the music and the beat and just it makes them happy. So
that's awesome.
I
love it.
That. I'm writing down. I'm sorry. I'm just writing down all these little points, because when I pick out clips, you're making it tough, man. Because I have a lot of places where I can cut these clips. So I appreciate it, because I have a lot of choices, but it's also like, how do I choose which one I put out there?
Before you move to Arizona, you got to DJ for me and my friends. We love to party.
There you go.
Girls.
I do. I love it. And I'll let you know. Like, I'll probably be back here for Halloween. I've been talking to one of the clubs here locally. They do Halloween every year, and they've already kind of talked to me a little bit about coming back for Halloween. So, which would be kind of fun for me, because I have so many friends here.
Yeah.
People think like going to Vegas and stuff is really fun, but the truth is it's so overcrowded, it's overpriced. It's not. I would rather be here with my friends and be able to do that, because it's much more meaningful to them. And so I can always let you. My website will have, so that'll be November 1st. Yeah. It'll have dates on there, like where I'm playing and all that kind of stuff. You buy tickets, all that kind of stuff. So, yeah.
I love that. We have one more question for you, but I just want to let you know this, that way you're not shocked when this comes out on social media. I'm going to start telling people that that movie We Are Your Friends with Zac Efron was based on your life. So I hope you don't mind that little lie, but I'm going to tell people that, and just see what they say. Let's see what they say.
I'll tell you. So this is actually really funny about that.
Yeah.
I cannot tell you how many times I've been asked or told that I look like him.
The lie is not that bad.
My wife's,
they're going to believe it.
My little one kind of thought he was really cute. Until some of her friends said, "Your dad looks like Zac Efron," and she's like, It's funny. So it's a real, it comes up. People will say, "Has anybody ever told you look like a celebrity?" And my wife will roll her eyes like, "Oh my God, here it goes." Here it goes. It's the same thing every time, which it's super fun. I think it's just our I have pictures when I was younger, like junior high, and I put them side by side and send them to my kids, and they're like, "Oh my God!"
Wow.
Well, just an older version, like much older, but
yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah,
nice.
Well, that's a done deal. I'm going to do it. I'm going to say we had Zac Efron on the podcast. It's like, see, look at picture proof right here.
You watch some people. Yeah, we'll see. I don't know about right now that I have a hat on and everything else, but it is a thing. It is legit a thing. That's awesome. That and one other person I've been told I look like, and I don't know about how I feel about this one, but it was Bill Murray.
Hold on, wait a minute. Those are
what? Those are complete opposite things.
Total opposite. I had somebody tell me one time I looked like Bill Murray, and I was like,
"Oh, I would throw that one away."
Yeah.
Let's throw that out the window.
I would flip it and say, "Yeah, they told me I was as funny as Bill Murray."
And And I don't mean any disrespect to Bill Murray, but that
Right.
took all the Zac Efrons and just wiped them out.
Yeah, for sure. Dang. All right. Well, I don't buy that one. I don't see it. So that's awesome. Well, man, this has been a lot of fun, and I forgot to prep you for this next question, but I don't think it's gonna be a problem for you. Basically, at the end of the show, we ask people for a connection suggestion. So it could be a person, it could be a brand, it could be an organization, it could be a restaurant, it could be a club, whatever it is. Give us one person or thing that you feel like our audience should know about and get connected with.
So that's, for me, that's probably pretty easy. So my wife and I have her hat on. My wife and I are very close to the owners of Lift Tech Fitness. He lives here, or he and his wife live here in Rockland. They started this company from the ground up. If you're into anything fitness, he's gotten so well connected. They're really, really, really genuine, good people who, like, he's like, they're family to me and my wife. We argue like family, we fight like family, we make up like family. We're very close to them, and they're very, very good people. They're very well connected. I would say if you're into the fitness industry and you're looking for someone to connect with and looking for products and stuff like that, his name's Doug, his wife's name's Jane. The company is Lift Tech Fitness. So you can it's lifttechfitness.com. It's also on, if you go to my Instagram, it's on there as well. It's on my wife's. But they started that company, and my wife and I have been the face of that company. I loosely say that because to me, it's more my wife. But like, if you go to their events and they're if they're at a bodybuilding show over and they have the big tents and they have like the big banners and stuff, those pictures are me and my wife. We've been with them since the very beginning, together. He always says this. So when he sees this, I'm gonna say that to him right now. He always says that they would be nowhere if it wasn't for my wife and I. But the truth is, it's exactly the same thing in the opposite way. All of my DJ stuff, me competing as a pro, all that stuff has been because those two have believed in me and pushed me and said that they think I can do certain things. And so it goes both ways. But if you're looking for just to connect, somebody who's connected to people, I mean, he's got, especially in the fitness world, he's got people all over the country now, Canada, overseas, everything. So, and just someone that you truly, truly can trust, and, stands behind his products and stands behind his stuff, always open to feedback and suggestions, would do anything for you. He's just really, really good people. So I'm trying to steal them. I was actually talking before I got on with you guys today. I'm trying to get them to sell their home here in Rockland and move to Arizona with me. So.
Nice.
Hey man, after what you just said, we're definitely going to post that clip. And so that might be the final straw. That was a very nice, very kind words you said. So hopefully that helps you get them there for sure.
All right. Well, it'll happen.
It will happen. There we go. He sounds confident. I believe him. So, hey man, this has been a lot of fun. Tell the people, where can they follow you on social media and all that stuff?
So on my, it's funny, my Facebook, I don't use very often. It's linked to my Instagram. So it just kind of goes there. But my Instagram is Xstofr. So it's actually spelled, it's actually right there. It's Xstofr, which is basically, that's my middle name. It's Chad Christopher Larsen. That was my creative, funky way one night of spelling my name. And everybody says Xstofr, including my kids. But that is how it's said. I changed my Instagram so it spells it out so you know what it says now. But
there you go.
So that's my Instagram. If you just put XTO FR on my on Instagram, it'll pull me right up. I'm the only one on there.
Perfect.
My website. So if you go to www.xstofr.com, that'll pull up. It says under construction. It's got some basic stuff on there. But it has like a countdown date to November 1st. So that'll launch. And then same thing, if you go to SoundCloud. So I have some of my mixes. Some of the stuff that I have is on SoundCloud.
Cool.
Exact same thing. So everything I have is that name. So come November 1st, if you Google my name, the entire Google page will populate me. So I'll be certified on there, and it'll have every link to anything that I'm attached to on there. So
I love it, man. That's
including
awesome.
you could, if you're young and you're looking for a really good time, I'm pretty sure there's a good chance I'm gonna be playing spring break in Cancun next year. So
Dang.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
There you
The
go.
hookup right there.
Find him wherever he's going to be. It sounds like he's going to be a lot of places. So that's awesome. You guys can follow us at Connectable Podcast on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and then at Connectable Pod on Twitter. And then make sure you check this episode out and all of our other episodes on wherever you listen to your podcast, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, wherever it may be. Man, this has been a lot of fun. Like I said, like we talked about before we started recording, I felt like we were going to go over and run out of time, and we definitely did. So we'll have to have you back on, man, once you get settled down in Arizona down the road and chat some more.
yeah, absolutely. I appreciate it. Thanks for you guys' time too.
Yeah, man, it was fun.
Thanks for letting me get into all the crazy science stuff about bodybuilding and free.
Oh yeah, and you can hit me up anytime you have other questions, because that's hours and hours worth of talk. So there's a lot to it. So
yeah, right.
Yeah. Well, thank you for
and same
allowing me
thing for anybody else who, if you're out there and you listen to this and you have any questions, I promise you, like, you're not going to bother. Like I like to talk about it. I like to help other people. So if you have questions about that, any of that kind of stuff,
Sweet.
Yep.
Awesome.
Get connected with Chad. Yeah, it would be a good thing for sure. So
get connected with Xstofr.
I love it.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you so much. Good luck with your move and all of that. And stay safe and stay healthy.
All right. Thank you.
All right, man. Thanks for watching the show. If you enjoyed that episode, make sure you like it, share it, and hit the subscribe button to get a new episode every week. We'll see you next time on the Connectable Podcast.